Hello everyone, my name is Prajakta Dage and I am from Department of Zoology, KTHM College, Nashik. Today I will be taking a lecture for MSc Part 2, Semester 3. The subject is Insect Physiology and the chapter is 17th chapter, which comprises of endocrines, neurosecretory hormones, chemistry, function and mechanism of hormone action, molting and juvenile hormone, chemistry and physiology, other peptides and steroid hormones. The topic that we are going to deal with today is molting. This is the fifth lecture of this particular chapter. Let's begin with the molting phase or the phase of molting. Actually, we have divided this particular topic in a few subtopics which will be seen in the coming lectures. For now, let's begin with the first part of molting. Now, growth is limited by the cuticle. Sclerotized cuticle is virtually inextensible, and membranous cuticle can be stretched only to the extent that folds in the outer epidermis or outer epicuticle allows. Growth is limited by the cuticle. Sclerotized cuticle is virtually inextensible, and membranous cuticle can stretch only to the extent that folds in the outer epicuticle will allow. As a result, for any marked increase in size to occur, the cuticle must be shed and replaced, right? So, casting the cuticle is known as molting, but it involves a sequence of events beginning with the separation of the old cuticle from the underlying epidermal cells and ending with the remnants of the old cuticle being shed off. These processes are known as apolysis and ecdysis. Okay, so apolysis is separation of old cuticle from the underlying epidermal cells, and ecdysis is the shedding of the old cuticle. Okay, clear? Now, after ecdysis, the new cuticle is expanded and chemically modified. In some insects, extensive deposition of new cuticle continues in the intermold period. Intermold period, the period between the two molds, is referred to as intermold period. The timings and changes in the integument are seen. So, we'll move on to the next part and see what are the changes in the epidermis that are going to occur. In most insects with well sclerotized cuticles, such as the larvae of most hemimetabolous insects, epidermal cell density is constant through most of the intermold periods. It increases as a result of mitosis at the onset of molting, and then undergoes a sharp, relatively small decrease during the cuticular expansion, which is followed by ecdysis or after ecdysis. There is a net increase in total number of cells so that the number per unit area returns to its original value. The overall area of the epidermis and hence of the cuticle which it produces is increased. In larval forms with flexible cuticle, however, the pattern of changes is different. In the period of feeding following ecdysis, cell density decreases as the cuticle above the cells unfolds and the cells spread laterally. When mitosis occurs and the number of cells is increased, cell density increases sharply. At the larval pupal molds, some increase in density probably also occurs due to rearrangement of the cells as the larva shorten. Cell growth in the period before ecdysis results in subsequent decrease in the density. These changes in the epidermal cell density are accompanied by changes in the cell shape. In Rodnius, the cells are columnar immediately after molting, but then become squamous until the insect feeds. After this, they become deeper again. The epidermal cells of caterpillar, in contrast, become progressively deeper in the days following ecdysis, but get markedly deeper at the time of cell division and when the insect shortens prior to the pupation. Before this phase, in the final larval stage of Calpodis, Before this phase, in the final larval stage of Calpodis, the cells develop basal processes but then shorten rapidly as the larval segments also shorten prior to pupation. The feet are probably critically important in producing changes in the shape of an insect at metamorphosis and are probably formed in all insects. So, larval Cyclorapha differs from the other insects because no cell division occurs in the epidermis. As a result, cell density decreases and the area of each cell increases throughout the larval life as it grows. Let's move on to the next part, that is separation of the cuticle from the epidermis. Now let's move on to another part, which is apolysis, which is separation of the cuticle from the epidermis. As a result of the changes in the cell shape, tension is generated at the epidermal cell surface, resulting in its separation from the cuticle. In Podura, which belongs to Columbola, however, the outer plasma membrane of the epidermal cells forms small outpushings that separate off as a vesicle to form a foam which lifts off the cuticle. The separation of the cuticle from underlying epidermis is known as apolysis, and the space formed between the epidermis and cuticle is called as exuvial or subcuticular space. Now let's move on to the next point. The next point is digestion of the old cuticle. Before the cuticle is shed, the endocuticle is digested by the enzymes secreted by epidermal cells. A mixture of enzymes is involved, including chitinase, a trypsin-like protease, and an aminopeptidase. At least in some insect species, some of the enzymes are present in cuticle even before apolysis. For example, in the larva of Calpodis, electron-dense droplets are secreted during the production of the last layer of procuticle. These exuvial droplets are probably inactive precursors of molting enzymes. In Benduca larva, chitinase is present in the cuticle. In many species, however, the enzymes are secreted into the exuvial space after apolysis. In Podura, they are produced as granules, and in various Lepidoptera, they are described as forming a gel. These enzymes do not start to digest the endocuticle until the outer epicuticle of a new cuticle is formed. They may be inactive because they are in the form of precursors, right, which are called as zymogens. Now these precursors require activation, or because their substrate is not available to them, they are inactive. They are going to be inactive. Proteolytic enzymes are probably secreted as precursors and require the secretion of zymogen activating enzymes before they become active. Now what happens is, chitinases. Okay, however, they appear to have the potential to be active from the time of secretion, but they depend on the prior action of proteolytic enzymes that free the chitin from its close association with the proteins. In Manduka and in other insects, some of the insects, a chitinase attacks the internal linkages in the chitin molecule, producing small oligosaccharides. These are then broken down by beta N acetylglucosaminidase. The two enzymes act synergistically. Activation is associated with active transport of potassium into the exuvial space, which is accompanied by a bulk flow of water, excessive flow of water. The fluid produced is called molting fluid, and its ionic composition may serve as a buffer for the enzyme against pH changes during the subsequent digestion of cuticle, as well as it contributes to the solution of exuvial droplets. The enzymes digest all the unsclerotized cuticle except the ecdysial membrane, but have no effect on the exocuticle or on the muscle and nerve connection to the old cuticle. These connections persist so that the insect is still able to move and receive stimuli from the environment, but they are finally broken to ecdysis or say broken at ecdysis by the movement of the insect. The products of cuticular digestion are absorbed through the mouth and anus, and possibly also directly through the integument. As a result, up to 90% of the material that is present in the cuticle may be conserved. As a result of this activity of molting fluid, the cuticle becomes very thin and weak along the ecdysial lines. These vary in position, but in locust there is A-shaped line on the head and median dorsal line on the prothorax. Now let's move on to another part which is called as ecdysis. Okay. Now when the molting fluid and the products of digestion of molting are reabsorbed, the old cuticle consists of little more than epicuticle and exocuticle and is quite separated from the new cuticle. Ecdysis usually follows as soon as the digestion is complete. A phase or say a phase of preparatory activity loosens the old cuticle. It consists of a sequence of relatively simple motor activities following each other in a more or less definite order. Carlson recognized 7 motor programs in the preparatory phase of Telogyralis. Adult Lepidoptera make partial rotatory movement of the abdomen to free themselves from the pupal cuticle just before the eclosion. The sequence of the activities is controlled endogenously by the central nervous system, but feedback from the peripheral sensilla can prolong the activities. The insects splits the old cuticle by exerting pressure against it from within. An increase in the blood volume occurs before ecdysis in Cystocerca. And probably in some other insects, it contributes to the insect's ability to do this. Then, in the preparatory phase of ecdysis, it usually swallows air or water, swelling the gut so that the hemolymph pressure is increased. The blood is pumped into a particular part of the body, often the thorax, so that this thorax expands and exerts pressure on the old cuticle, causing it to split along its lines of weakness. Special muscles may be concerned in this pumping movements. When the old cuticle is split, the insect draws itself out, usually by head and thorax first, followed by the abdomen and appendages later on. Many insects suspend themselves freely from a support so that emergence is aided by gravity. All the cuticular parts are shed, including the intima of fore and hindgut, the endophragmal skeleton, and the linings of the trachea, except for some delicate parts which may break off. The old cuticle is referred to as exuving. Immediately after the emergence, the new cuticle is unexpanded and soft, so that it provides the insect with little support. The blood probably acts as hydrostatic skeleton, since its volume is still high, and in adult Calliphora it constitutes 30% of the body weight at this time. When expansion is complete, body volume is reduced so that it comprises only about 10% of the total body weight. Some parts of the skeleton may be hardened before ecdysis. This pre-ecdysial hardening is usually restricted to small parts of the cuticle, such as this pre-ecdysial hardening is usually restricted to small parts of the cuticle, such as the claws that are essential for insects to hold on with. But it is more extensive in Cyclorapha and those Lepidoptera which have to escape from the pupal cell or cocoon. So this was all from my side about molting for today's lecture, and thank you so much for listening to it.